Hi, I'm Glenn. I'm a food addict, and I'm just want to talk a little bit about the my experience with the 12-step program and what I found the differences with alcohol, drugs, and food. So I got into recovery in 2012. September 4th of 2012 is my will be my 13 years, which is coming up a little bit. And when I found recovery in the beginning, I asked a counselor that I checked myself into outpatient treatment. I asked him, "What's your rate of recovery?" And he said, "It's 100% for those who follow suggestions." And I thought, 100%? Okay, that's what I want. I want 100% because I cannot fail because failure was not an option. And so I said, okay, I'm going to prove to you, buddy, that you're probably lying to me and that I'm going to give it 100%, 110%, and I'm going to prove to you that it won't work. I'm going to follow all the suggestions that you make, and it's not going to work for me. You'll see that I am different. So that was my attitude when I first got into recovery. And now after about 5 years in recovery from drugs and alcohol, I was working the program really hard and sponsoring and doing service and was chairperson on events that we hosted in Narcotics Anonymous. I decided to go with Narcotics Anonymous when I first got into recovery because there were six NA meetings in the county that I got clean and sober in, whereas there was only one AA meeting a week. So I went to 5 and 6 meetings a week when I first started. And because I wanted that 100%, and I was going to give it all I got because, this one Bible verse kind of, not the whole thing, but part of it would like come to mind. When you set your hand to the plow, you do not stop. So I had set my hand to the plow. Um, and so I just kept going. But after 5 years of recovery from drugs and alcohol, I had been eating the whole time. I mean, I let myself eat whatever I wanted because it says in the big book, if you're struggling and just really jittery, have something sweet. They even talked about having chocolate on hand so that you could um like postpone a possible relapse with alcohol. So I took that as a license to eat anything and everything I wanted, and I sure did. I sure did. I could hardly do anything at all when I first quit drinking and smoking. Well, marijuana was what I was smoking, but I mean, when it got to the end, I didn't even have marijuana that anybody wanted. It was ditch weed that I had. It was like, it was there as like a, I don't know, a safety, a backup, a just in case kind of thing. But I mean, it was crap. It was pure crap. But anyway, so I was eating cereal, ice cream, pastries, jelly Bismarcks. And if you are triggered by names of certain foods, too bad. If you're triggered by those things, it's because you still have something in you that attracts you to those things because your recovery isn't complete yet. So what I found is that it's pretty straight up when you quit drugs and alcohol. Just don't do it, like Nancy Reagan said. Just don't do it. Don't touch it. So it's pretty straight up for those things. But with food, it's different. Food, it has to be food you have to have. So when you're attracted to unhealthy foods, I think it's because there's something unhealthy inside of me that the food is trying to alert me to. So when I'm attracted to unhealthy foods, it means it's mirroring something unhealthy inside of me. So I think I've come to look at relapse not as a failure, but as a gift because it's telling me, my body is telling me there's still something wrong that I have not addressed. There's something missing in my program of recovery. So I have taken the leap of faith to say, I'm not going to continue restricting. I'm not going to continue following a precise food plan, precise weighing and measuring, because all that gets me is, you know, 2 months down the road or 10 months down the road or a year and a half down the road, just waiting for the next opportunity where the disease will take control back from me. And that's all that a food plan of weighing and measuring has done for me. It's been a way of me delaying, postponing, kicking the can down the road to deal with, investigate, um, discover what is unhealthy inside of me that continues to compel me back to unhealthy foods. Um, when I decided to, well, the reason that I decided to take a different approach to relapse was I remember being a very big Sherlock Holmes fan, and this is something that I learned really from my first husband, Paul Andrew Hansen. Oh, I shouldn't say his name, but there I just did. Anyway, he was a really big Sherlock Holmes fan, and I didn't know anything about Sherlock Holmes, but I mean, we really enjoyed Sherlock Holmes. We watched a lot of the movies, from Nigel Bruce and Basil Rathbone, and just really enjoyed his sleuthing. And I read a lot of the stories from Sherlock Holmes and just really really enjoyed them. And I remember a couple of the episodes, well, several of them actually, they would have like a cipher that they would have to decipher, right? With like uh a special code of like one episode had a code using dancing figures, like it was called the Dancing Men. Um, so like the first four messages that they found that were like really being left for this lady to find and was driving her crazy. They they figured out how to decipher these messages, but the last one they just could not figure out. They found, the code. They broke the code for it by understanding what letters went where, and E is the most used letter in the English language is E, followed by I don't remember if it's A and T or second and third, but anyway, they managed to decipher like the first three messages, but the last one, uh the code that they had discovered for the first three puzzles just did not fit. Didn't fit. It didn't fit. They couldn't figure out that the last message. And in another episode, they had these three musical boxes. Tinkle, tinkle, tinkle. I remember watching that. It was really a fun one. In this, it's a story about these three musical boxes that some people were actually trying to recover, And it turns out that these musical boxes were made by an inmate in Dartmoor prison. And I guess the prisoners would make things and that they would go up for auction at this auction house. And this one lady bought one for a shop, and another one was purchased by a Scotsman who was like very, very cheap. And then there was another one who was another music box was purchased by a guy whose nickname was Stinky, and Stinky was actually a member of the same club, men's club, that Dr. Watson belonged to. And that's how Sherlock Holmes had been involved in the theft of this musical box from Stinky. Well, when they visited Stinky, he, related about what happened, and he said, well, this musical box had nothing, nothing really ornate or valuable about it. I mean, there were ones there that were so much more valuable. Why would they even take that one? And Sherlock Holmes, he gets a hold of these musical boxes, and the message was encoded, hidden in the notes that the musical box played. So that was a really tough nut for him to crack. But when it come down to the last musical box, it didn't fit. They couldn't, Sherlock could not figure out what in the world was the code for that one. It just did not fit like the other musical boxes did. And and then Dr. Watson, he does this in several episodes actually, but this one in particular, I remembered that he said, "Oh, it just reminds me of my old piano teacher when I was growing up. Just the old gal, she tried and tried to teach me. I just couldn't understand and just couldn't get it. He said, she would number the keys and number the keys. And he said, even with that, everything was all twisted round, just twisted round. And then Sherlock picks up on it. He says, twisted round, twisted round. Watson, by Jove, you've got it. Twisted round. And he goes back to the codes that he's trying to break. Like, for instance, the one with the dancing man. He takes that code that he has and he twists it around so that it is no longer reading backwards. He twists it around so that now it is reading from front front to back or left to right like it should be. So I think that is what we have encountered with the addiction to food, is that we need to twist it around and say abstinence from these particular foods is not the answer, but learning why we are attracted to them is the answer. So we need to, for me, this has been a key that I am testing the theory to, is that if I twist it around and say, okay, I am going to allow myself to eat whatever my body and my soul, my spirit is like driven to eat, and I will try different things with step 4 to see if I can release what's in me that's unhealthy. And the more I release unhealthy things from myself, the less attracted I am going to be to eating unhealthy foods. So like for instance, some of the things that I have learned recently about myself that I did not ever know or think possible. It's like, because I have to know who I am. And until I know who I am, I'm going to be attracted to unhealthy things because I am harboring unhealthy beliefs and unhealthy ideas about who I am. So when I stopped looking at who other people told me I was, who I would tell myself I was. I started looking at who does God say I am? Because in my unhealthy state of being, the big book says I can't tell the true from the false. I have to start on a footing of truth. And who can tell me the truth about who I am? God knows exactly who I am. God can tell me exactly who I am. And He's not going to tell me a lie because God is truth. And so I started writing a two-way prayer. And like one of the first things I asked was, God, who do you say I am? Who do you see me as? Who am I? Or words like that. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to write down what do I think God would say? What do I think God would tell me? Well, I remember, some of the things from my, religious instruction, which is not all false. Some of it is not quite 100% true, but I don't know what those things are. Only God knows what is 100% absolutely true. Like they had in early AA days, they followed the four absolutes: absolute love, absolute purity, absolute unselfishness, and absolute what was the last one? Love. Yes. So all of those things come from God and they're absolute. I don't have to guess about them, but if I go to him and ask him for the truth, I mean, like a child, because I don't know. I don't know and I want to know. So if you ask for the truth from God, he will always, always give it to you. But if you come to him thinking, I already know, I already know, I already know, he's not gonna he's not gonna trample over your free will to already know. So if you go asking in the spirit of, well, for lack of a better word, is that I go in the spirit of sincere ignorance. I didn't really like that word ignorance when I first, when I hear it, because I mean, to me, I think ignorance means stupidity, which when you really look at it, that's not what it means. It means I have ignored what I am about to look at. I have ignored it. It doesn't mean stupidity. It means that I have ignored this particular thing. So I have ignored what God says who I am. That doesn't mean stupidity. That means I have ignored it. And my parents probably ignored it. I mean, who goes straight to God and asks him for the truth? Well, I always was taught to look at the Bible, look at church, and what do they teach you there? That's where I was told to look. But I thought, why can't I just go directly to God? Why not? So I have had like a sincere thought of I've never looked that way, which is ignorance. Not stupidity, but just I've ignored that path. So this is like an ignored path that I think everybody's never really looked at. So coming from a state of sincere ignorance, like, oh, okay. Like a child has, oh, I've never looked at that before. I've never looked at that kind of flower. Not because I'm stupid, but just because I've never looked at it. So when I approach God and ask him for the truth, I really want to know the truth. I haven't been, uh, well, let's just leave it at that. I'm kind of drawing a blank after that. So I thought, well, what would God tell me? And then since I was writing, the words started coming to mind, and the words were beautiful and uplifting and loving and caring and compassionate. And I started crying when I was getting the answers that I got. Now, I don't know if they were coming from God, but they sure seemed like they were. So I was like, wow, I'm going to keep doing this. What else can I ask God? What else have I been ignorant about? What else have I ignored um as having like talking to him directly as a path? I've never heard of talking directly to him or asking him directly. So I just went about it like I want to learn. And when you're told in 12-step program you can have the God of your own understanding, and who is God to you, and what attributes do you want God to have, and what do you think, for you, for everybody is different. Everybody decides who God uh is, or what do you need God to be more than anything. And for me, I needed God to be a teacher. And I, more than anything, wanted to be a student because I love to learn. I love to learn. I love to discover. I love finding nuggets of truth here and there. And I'm telling you, I've been on this scavenger hunt with God. And he's left, for lack of a better analogy, he's like left me breadcrumbs to find to coming home to him. And it's been such a joy that I can't even describe it. But imagine having the best teacher in the world, and he's teaching you anything you want to know, and he's leaving you breadcrumbs to go and discover them, and you get to learn all the way through. And it's like a super sleuth. And Sherlock Holmes was written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And did you know that he was really big into spiritualism, which I don't know a whole lot about that. So I started looking into what is spiritualism. I have learned so much that just having an open mind to whatever direction God has given for me to take. And some directions I haven't gone down those paths because there's so many different paths to finding him, and lots of different ways. And it doesn't matter who you are or how old you are. I don't think that if you get on this path and you want God to teach you, oh my gosh, he will teach you whatever you want. He won't always tell you, I mean, he's not going to tell you everything immediately, because the process of learning is the thing that transforms you. So the learning, oh gosh, be in love with learning, because that's what transformed me. And one of the things that has been like the transformation for me is God has shown me who I really am. He has helped me to accept myself and love myself. And that's been the transformation, is that he has helped me to accept myself exactly as I am, as who I am, because this is who he made me to be. Specifically, he made me to be exactly the way I am. He's made me he's made me to experience everything I've experienced, what I would call good and bad. All of those things have have compiled within me so that I could find my way through the maze of the addiction to food substances, and to twist it around and say this is not the same as alcohol because we have to have food. So God has has a path for us to find our way through it, but it isn't the same as alcohol because it's not the same as alcohol. Um, I'm starting to feel like I am running out of what I'm talking about. Um, I don't know. I know I do have more to say about it, but for me, my definition of abstinence has changed, and I should maybe write it down because I only have a vague idea in my mind of what the abstinence is. Um, and that's about all I got. I'll talk more later when I have more to say. Oh, metaphors. For the longest time, I really thought that music was the universal language. And I know I talked to a lady just here a couple of months ago, and I mentioned that to her, and she says, "Oh, no, it isn't." And I thought, what? I've never heard anybody say that music is not the universal language. Well, when I was listening to this TED Talk yesterday, the lady was talking about metaphors, and that she said metaphors are the universal language because everybody in every language understands a metaphor, and those are translatable into all languages. So there's a little bit more work here for me to do. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to ask for some help from the spiritual guidance that I know is there, and I'm just gonna keep moving on. So now with the food program, I've decided that the message I am getting is that I need to twist it around. I need to take the solution that works for drugs and alcohol, take that solution and twist it around. And that relapse is actually a gift. And that is what teaches me what remains inside me that is unhealthy. So when I stop desiring unhealthy foods, that's how I will know that I have found the unhealthy beliefs inside me. So, okay. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.